Taehyung's wedding announcement hit the world like a sudden storm no one saw coming. The headline spread across every screen within minutes. Taehyung will marry in 2026, official statement coming soon. At first, fans thought it was a joke, another rumor born from mistranslated interviews or anonymous sources hungry for clicks. But this time it was real. The statement came directly from the company. Short, formal, emotionless. Taehyung would be getting married, not someday, not hypothetically, but soon. Somewhere in a quiet hotel suite in Tokyo, Jungkook was holding a glass of red wine when he saw it. The notification buzzed on his phone, soft and harmless, but the words on the screen felt violent. He read the headline once, then again, then a third time. His fingers loosened before his mind could catch up. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the marble floor, the sound sharp and final, echoing through the silent room. "He's really doing it," Jungkook whispered. The air conditioner hummed quietly. No answer came. Taehyung stood by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the rain-soaked city. Neon lights blurred behind the glass, distorted and trembling, like the world itself had lost focus. He didn't turn around. "I found out 5 minutes ago," Taehyung said quietly. "Same way you did." Jungkook laughed under his breath, a sound that didn't carry humor. "So that's it. He just drops this on the world like it's a new album release." Taehyung closed his eyes. "He didn't tell me either." The room felt too small, too quiet, too heavy. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Not after everything. Not after the way things had ended between them. Not after all the nights they pretended the past didn't still breathe between them. Outside, the rain grew heavier. Across the world, ARMY exploded. Social media timelines flooded with disbelief, heartbreak, excitement, denial. Some celebrated, some refused to believe it, some went silent. But behind the trending hashtags and viral edits, something far more fragile was breaking in real time. Jungkook sank onto the edge of the bed, staring at the shards of glass by his feet. He didn't move away from them. He didn't care if they cut him. "It's too late now," he murmured. Taehyung turned sharply. "What?" Jungkook didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "It's too late now," he repeated. The words came out calm but hollow, like something that had been sitting inside him for years, waiting for the right moment to escape. Taehyung stared at him. "You think I don't know that?" His jaw tightened. His eyes were red not from tears but from holding them back too long. "I didn't even get a message," Taehyung said. "Not a call, not a warning. I found out from a notification just like the fans." Jungkook stood up and walked past him barefoot, stepping carefully around the glass. Pain didn't register, not when something inside his chest hurt worse. Somewhere else, in a quiet studio in Seoul, Taehyung himself had been preparing for a press interview. He sat alone in a dressing room, dressed in soft white, simple and clean. A stylist adjusted his hair. A manager checked her phone. Taehyung barely noticed. His hands were trembling slightly as he opened the small box in his pocket. Inside was the ring. Elegant, expensive, perfect for the world he was about to step into. But not perfect for his heart. When the interviewer asked, "Is this marriage something you've always dreamed of?" Taehyung paused. The cameras zoomed in. "I'm grateful," he said slowly. "My partner is kind, he makes me feel safe." He didn't say loved. The smile he gave afterward lasted less than a second too short, long enough for fans to notice, long enough for clips to spread. Within hours, edits surfaced, zoomed-in screenshots, slowed-down reactions. Something's wrong. That smile didn't reach his eyes. He looked scared. Taehyung watched the clip alone later that night. He saw it too. The hesitation, the crack in his voice, the part of himself that still hadn't learned how to lie convincingly. His phone vibrated. A message from Jungkook, just 3 words. "Too late now." Taehyung stared at the screen for a long time. He didn't reply. 2 nights later, Jungkook went live. No announcement, no schedule, no warning. He sat on the studio floor, hoodie slipping off one shoulder, hair messy, eyes tired. For 5 minutes he said nothing while millions of comments flooded the screen. Then he spoke. "I hope he's happy," Jungkook said quietly. "I really do." His voice trembled. His eyes flicked away from the camera for a second. That was all. He ended the stream without saying goodbye. The clip became legendary within hours, the most replayed moment of the year. Fans analyzed every detail: his tone, his posture, the way his hand clenched around his knee. Something had broken, and everyone could feel it. That night, Taehyung couldn't sleep. The ring sat untouched on the table beside his bed. The room felt unfamiliar, like a life he was trying to grow into but didn't recognize yet. Without telling anyone, he left the hotel. No bodyguards, no manager, just a cap pulled low over his face and the quiet streets of Seoul stretching endlessly in front of him. He walked until he reached the old studio. The one they used to sneak into after midnight. The one where Jungkook once waited 3 hours just to hear a song Taehyung had written and never released. The door was unlocked. Inside, the lights were dim. The air smelled like dust and old memories. Jungkook was there, sitting cross-legged on the floor, headphones on, lost in a track he hadn't finished mixing. Taehyung froze. Jungkook turned slowly, sensing movement. Their eyes met. No words, just silence thick and fragile like one wrong breath could shatter it. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jungkook asked finally. Taehyung looked away. "Because I knew you'd say something that would make me stay." Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper. "I would have." Taehyung's eyes filled, and I would have listened. He left before either of them could say anything else. The wedding was still scheduled. The world kept moving. The next morning, the world woke up to headlines that felt heavier than the day before. Taehyung cancels all public appearances for 1 week. No explanation, no clarification, just silence. Fans speculated everything: stress, anxiety, contract issues, wedding pressure, but none of them knew that Taehyung hadn't gone back to the hotel at all. He spent the night sitting alone in his car by the Han River, watching the city lights reflect on the water like memories he couldn't erase. His phone buzzed constantly. Managers, friends, family. He ignored them all, because the only message he wanted wasn't coming. Jungkook didn't text again. And somehow, that hurt more than the words themselves. Across the city, Jungkook sat in his studio, replaying the same unfinished track over and over. It wasn't meant for release. It didn't even have proper lyrics yet. Just a melody and a single line that kept looping in his head. Too late now. He hadn't planned to say it on the live stream. It just slipped out, raw and unfiltered, like a confession he'd been holding in for years. The public thought it was about the wedding. But Jungkook knew it was. It was about every moment he hadn't spoken. Every time he'd chosen silence over honesty. Every time he'd convinced himself that waiting was safer than risking everything. He opened his phone and scrolled through old photos. Concert lights, backstage selfies, late-night ramen runs, Taehyung asleep on the couch with a hoodie over his face, mouth slightly open, breathing slow and peaceful. Jungkook's thumb hovered over the screen. He almost deleted them. Almost. Meanwhile, Taehyung sat in a quiet cafe on the outskirts of Seoul, sunglasses hiding eyes that hadn't slept. The place was nearly empty, just soft music and the smell of coffee in the air. He stared at his reflection in the window. He looked like himself, but he didn't feel like it. The ring was still in his pocket. He hadn't put it on. He wasn't sure he ever really had. His phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't his manager. It was Jungkook. Just one message. Did you mean it? Taehyung's heart dropped into his stomach. He typed, deleted, typed again. Mean what? The reply came almost instantly. When you said you would have stayed. Taehyung's hands started shaking. He looked around the cafe, at strangers laughing, at couples holding hands, at a world that felt painfully normal while his own was falling apart. Yes, he typed. I meant it. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Jungkook didn't reply. Hours passed. By evening, the company released another statement. The wedding press conference would proceed as planned. The narrative was being pushed forward. Whether Taehyung was ready or not. Taehyung read it on his phone and felt something inside him finally crack. He stood up, left money on the table, and walked out into the cold air. Instead of heading back to the hotel, he went somewhere else. Somewhere he hadn't been in years. Jungkook's apartment. He stood outside the building for nearly 10 minutes before pressing the buzzer. Nothing. He tried again. Still nothing. Just as he turned to leave, the door clicked open. Jungkook stood there in sweatpants and an old black t-shirt, hair messy, eyes tired, like he hadn't expected anyone to be real anymore. They stared at each other. You shouldn't be here, Jungkook said softly. I know, Taehyung replied, but I am. Silence stretched between them, thick and familiar. Jungkook stepped aside. Taehyung walked in. The apartment hadn't changed much. Same couch, same guitar by the window, same faint smell of coffee and detergent and something that still felt like home. Neither of them sat down. You're getting married, Jungkook said. Yes. Then why are you here? Taehyung swallowed, because I'm scared. Jungkook let out a bitter laugh. So was I for years. Taehyung's eyes filled. I thought choosing something stable would make it easier. I thought walking away would protect us. From what? Jungkook asked quietly. From loving each other. Taehyung didn't answer. Jungkook looked at him for a long time, then spoke the words that had been burning inside his chest. I waited. Taehyung flinched. I didn't chase you, Jungkook continued. I didn't beg, I didn't say anything, but I waited. Every time you walked away, I told myself you'd come back when you were ready. Taehyung's voice broke. I didn't know. Jungkook's eyes darkened. You knew, you just chose not to look. The truth hit harder than any accusation. Taehyung stepped forward slowly. Do you still feel anything? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. He turned away, walked to the window, stared out at the city. I don't know how to stop, he said. That's the problem. Taehyung's breath caught. Jungkook turned back to him. But you're not free, you made a promise. You put a ring on your future. I haven't put it on yet, Taehyung whispered. Jungkook's eyes flicked to his hand. No ring. That single detail felt louder than any words. Taehyung took another step closer. If I walk away now, I lose everything. The company, the image, the life everyone built for me. Jungkook's voice was calm but firm. And if you stay, you lose yourself. Taehyung closed his eyes. The room felt too small again. The same way it had felt in the hotel. The same way it had felt every time he pretended he didn't know the truth. I don't want to be safe, Taehyung said softly. I want to be honest. Jungkook exhaled slowly. Honesty comes with consequences. I know. Another silence. This one wasn't heavy. It was dangerous. Jungkook walked past him toward the door. You should go. Taehyung didn't move. Are you asking me to leave or are you afraid I will? Jungkook stopped. He turned back, eyes unreadable. I'm afraid that if you stay, I'll believe you again. Taehyung's voice dropped to a whisper. And if I leave? Jungkook's jaw tightened. Then I'll finally learn how to let you go. Taehyung stood there, heart racing, standing between two lives. One that looked perfect, and one that felt real. Slowly, he reached into his pocket, pulled out the ring, held it between his fingers. Jungkook watched, breath shallow. Taehyung placed it on the table. Not on his hand. On the wood. Between them. I don't know what I'm doing yet, Taehyung said, but I know I can't pretend anymore. Jungkook didn't touch the ring. He didn't need to. The message was already clear. The ring stayed on the table long after Taehyung left. Jungkook didn't move it. Didn't touch it. Didn't even look at it directly. He stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the city breathe in quiet pulses of light, pretending his heart wasn't still echoing with Taehyung's last words. I can't pretend anymore. Those words were more dangerous than any confession. Because pretending had been the only thing keeping them both alive for years. The next day, the company went into emergency mode. Taehyung's managers sat around a long glass table, faces tight, voices low but urgent. This is getting out of control. Fans are starting to suspect something. We need him visible, smiling, stable. Taehyung sat at the end of the table, silent. He nodded at the right moments, gave short answers, signed papers without really reading them. But his mind was somewhere else. In a small apartment that smelled like coffee. At a wooden table where a ring sat alone. The press conference was scheduled for 3 days later. 3 days until the world expected him to smile and say the right things. 3 days until he would either lie again or burn everything down. That night, Taehyung lay awake in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling. The future felt like a script written by someone who didn't know him at all. His phone buzzed. A new message. From Jungkook. Just one line. Did you mean it when you put the ring down? Taehyung didn't hesitate this time. Yes. There was a long pause. Then another message. Then don't come back unless you're ready to lose everything. Taehyung closed his eyes. That was the first honest thing Jungkook had ever asked of him. Across the city, Jungkook sat on the studio floor, back against the wall, guitar resting beside him. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. He kept replaying the moment Taehyung placed the ring on the table. Not because it meant freedom, but because it meant choice. And choice was terrifying. For years, Jungkook had survived by telling himself Taehyung didn't belong to him. That whatever they were, it lived only in between schedules, in half-finished songs, in moments no camera ever caught. But now Taehyung was standing at the edge of everything. And Jungkook knew one truth he couldn't escape anymore. If Taehyung really walked away from the wedding, the world wouldn't blame the industry. They would blame love. They would blame him. 2 days before the press conference, a photo leaked. Blurry, taken from across the street. Taehyung leaving Jungkook's building late at night. No faces clearly visible. No proof. Just silhouettes. The internet exploded. Speculation turned into chaos. Was the groom cheating? Is Jungkook involved? Is this why he said too late now? The company panicked. Taehyung's phone rang nonstop. He didn't answer. Instead, he sat alone in his hotel room, holding his phone, staring at Jungkook's last message. Don't come back unless you're ready to lose everything. He typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed again. This time he sent it. I'm more afraid of losing myself. There was no reply. The day of the press conference arrived. Cameras lined the building. Fans gathered outside. Journalists whispered rumors into their mics. Taehyung sat backstage in a black suit, makeup flawless, hair styled perfectly. He looked like someone about to get married. But inside, he felt like someone about to disappear. The ring was in his pocket again. Not as a promise, as a question. His manager leaned down. "You ready?" Taehyung nodded. The lights turned on. The cameras focused. The room fell silent. Taehyung walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd. For a moment, he saw everything he was supposed to want. Fame, stability, approval. Then he saw Jungkook. Not physically, but in memory. Barefoot in his apartment. Eyes tired. Voice quiet. "I'm afraid if you stay, I'll believe you again." Taehyung took a breath. "I know everyone is expecting me to talk about my wedding today," he began. The room leaned forward. "But I need to talk about something else first." The managers froze. Taehyung's hands shook slightly as he continued. "For a long time, I lived a life that looked right on the outside, but it wasn't honest on the inside." A murmur spread through the room. "I thought choosing something safe would make everything easier. I thought silence would protect the people I cared about." He paused. "But silence doesn't protect love. It only delays pain." Somewhere across the city, Jungkook watched the live stream alone. Heart pounding. Taehyung looked straight into the camera. "I'm not getting married in 2026. The room exploded. Flashes. Gasps. Shouting. Taehyung raised his hand gently. "I'm stepping away from everything I promised, because I finally understand that living a lie is worse than losing everything." His voice wavered for the first time. "There is someone I never stopped loving, and I won't hide that anymore." The stream cut abruptly. The company tried to shut it down. But it was too late. The world had already heard enough. Jungkook stared at the frozen screen. Breath shallow. Hands shaking. His phone buzzed. A new message from Taehyung. "I lost everything. Now tell me the truth. Was I ever too late?" Jungkook closed his eyes. For a long time, he didn't answer. The world didn't end. It just exploded. Within minutes, Taehyung's name dominated every platform. News channels replayed the press conference on loop. Headlines blurred together. Taehyung cancels wedding live on camera. BTS member chooses love over career. Is Jungkook the real reason? The company released a statement calling it a miscommunication. Lawyers moved fast. Phones rang endlessly. Managers shouted behind closed doors. But Taehyung was already gone. He didn't return to the hotel. Didn't answer calls. Didn't check social media. He walked through side streets, past cafes, across bridges, until he stood outside Jungkook's building again. This time he didn't hesitate. He rang the bell once. The door opened almost immediately. Jungkook stood there like he had been waiting. They didn't speak. Taehyung stepped inside. The door closed. And for the first time since the press conference, the world disappeared. Jungkook's apartment was quiet, dimly lit, untouched by the chaos outside. No screens, no headlines, just two people standing in the same space again. "You really did it," Jungkook said softly. Taehyung nodded. "I said it out loud to everyone." Jungkook searched his face. "And you're not scared?" Taehyung smiled faintly. "I'm terrified." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't painful anymore. It was honest. "I lost the wedding," Taehyung said. "The company, probably a lot of contracts." Jungkook swallowed. "You don't know what they'll do to you." "I know," Taehyung replied, "but I know what staying would have done to me." Jungkook looked away. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Jungkook spoke the truth he'd been holding back. I didn't think you'd really choose this. Taehyung stepped closer. Neither did I. Jungkook's voice was quiet. You don't get to undo everything with one speech. I'm not trying to undo it, Taehyung said. I'm trying to live with it. Jungkook's jaw tightened. And what if I can't? That question landed heavier than any headline. Taehyung stopped walking. If you tell me to leave, he said, I will. Jungkook looked at him sharply. Don't put that on me. I'm not, Taehyung whispered. I'm just being honest. Jungkook turned away, packing once, then again, like he was trying to outrun his own thoughts. You think this fixes things, he said. You think the world exploding suddenly makes us okay. Taehyung shook his head. No, I think it gives us a chance to stop lying. Jungkook laughed softly bitter. You know what hurts the most? Taehyung waited. You didn't leave for me, Jungkook said. You left for yourself. Taehyung didn't deny it. I had to. Jungkook exhaled slowly. And that's exactly why I don't know if I can trust this. Taehyung's voice cracked. I'm not asking you to trust me yet. Jungkook looked at him. Then what are you asking? Taehyung stepped closer, close enough that Jungkook could feel his breath. I'm asking you to tell me if you still feel anything at all. Jungkook didn't answer immediately. He closed his eyes. The truth pressed against his chest, painful and undeniable. I never stopped, he said. Taehyung's breath hitched. But that doesn't mean I'm okay, Jungkook continued. It just means I never learned how to let you go. Taehyung whispered, I'm here now. Jungkook opened his eyes. And what happens when it gets hard again? Taehyung swallowed. Then I stay. Jungkook searched his face for a lie. He didn't find one. Outside, the world was burning them alive. Inside, they were barely holding each other together. Jungkook finally stepped forward. Not to hug him. Not to touch him. Just close enough to stand in the same space. I don't want to be your secret, Jungkook said. I don't want to be your mistake. You're not, Taehyung replied immediately. You're the only truth I didn't run from. Jungkook's eyes darkened. Then don't run this time. I won't. The promise wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. And that made it dangerous. That night they sat on opposite ends of the couch, not touching, just breathing in the same air. The TV played without sound. Neither of them watched it. Taehyung finally spoke. They're going to hate me. Jungkook shrugged. They already do. Taehyung smiled faintly. Do you? Jungkook looked at him. Long. Carefully. No, he said. I'm just afraid of loving you again. Taehyung nodded. So am I. They didn't kiss. They didn't hold hands. They didn't rush anything. Because for the first time, they weren't chasing a moment. They were choosing to face the consequences of one. And somewhere across the internet, fans were still screaming, debating, breaking. Morning came quietly. No alarms, no schedules, no managers knocking on the door. Just soft light filtering through the curtains and the faint sound of traffic outside. Taehyung woke up on Jungkook's couch, still fully dressed, his jacket folded under his head like a makeshift pillow. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. Then he smelled coffee. Jungkook stood in the kitchen, back turned, hair messy, wearing the same t-shirt from the night before. He moved slowly, like someone who hadn't slept much either. They looked at each other. Not awkward. Just careful. You didn't leave, Jungkook said. Taehyung shook his head. You didn't ask me to. Jungkook nodded slightly, as if he was still convincing himself this was real. Outside, Taehyung's phone had died. Inside, Jungkook's phone was buzzing nonstop on the table. He ignored it. They sat across from each other with coffee between them, steam rising like something fragile they were both afraid to disturb. They're looking for me, Taehyung said quietly. I know. They're probably rewriting the story already. Jungkook's mouth curved faintly. They always do. Taehyung stared into his cup. I don't know what happens next. Jungkook watched him. For the first time, neither do I. That scared them both. By noon, the first real consequences arrived. A formal email from the company. A call from legal. A message from his family. Taehyung read none of them. Instead, he sat on the floor of the studio with Jungkook, listening to old demos on a dusty laptop. Songs that never made albums. Melodies that only existed between them. This one, Jungkook said softly, pressing play. Taehyung smiled when he heard it. You wrote that when we were in London. Jungkook nodded. You fell asleep halfway through and I finished it alone. Taehyung's smile faded. I'm sorry. Jungkook looked at him. For what? For leaving you with unfinished things. Jungkook didn't answer right away. Then he said the truth. I wasn't angry because you left. I was angry because you never let me choose with you. Taehyung closed his eyes. That's what I'm trying to do now. Jungkook studied him. And if I choose something different? Taehyung's voice was steady. Then I accept it. That honesty felt heavier than any promise. In the afternoon, news broke again. Not from the company. From fans. A security camera clip surfaced of Taehyung entering Jungkook, building the night before the press conference. Clearer this time. No silhouettes. No denial. The internet lost its mind. They were together before he cancelled. This was planned. Jungkook stole HIM. Taehyung destroyed everything for HIM. Jungkook read the headlines silently. Taehyung watched his face. I didn't mean to drag you into this, Taehyung said. Jungkook finally looked up. You didn't drag me, I stayed. Taehyung's throat tightened. They'll blame you, he whispered. They already are. Jungkook shrugged. They always need someone to blame. And if they ruin you? Jungkook's eyes were calm. Then at least it'll be for something real. That answer broke something inside Taehyung. Not in a painful way. In a freeing one. That evening, Jungkook went live again. No makeup, no styling, no announcement. Just him, sitting in the same studio as before. Comments flooded in instantly. He waited. Then he spoke. I'm not here to explain anyone, Jungkook said. I'm here to explain myself. The chat exploded. I loved someone for a long time, he continued. I didn't say it when I should have. I didn't fight when I should have. And I thought letting go was the mature thing to do. He paused. I was wrong. The comments slowed. I don't know what the future looks like. I don't know what we're allowed to be. But I know I don't want to keep pretending I'm okay with losing someone just because it's easier for the world. He took a breath. That's all. He ended the stream. Taehyung watched from the couch. Heart pounding. You didn't mention me, Taehyung said softly. Jungkook looked at him. I wasn't talking to them. Taehyung stood up slowly and walked closer. You know this makes everything worse, right? Jungkook nodded. Yeah. Taehyung stopped in front of him. Then why do it? Jungkook's voice was quiet. Because I don't want to survive this. I want to live through it. Taehyung laughed softly, not from humor but from emotion. You always say things like that. And you always run when I do. Taehyung met his eyes. Not this time. They stood there, closer than they had been in years. No touching. No dramatic gestures. Just the understanding that whatever came next, there was no going back to who they used to be. Later that night, Taehyung finally turned his phone on. Hundreds of messages flooded in. One stood out. From his manager. If you continue this, your career as you know it is over. Taehyung stared at the screen. Then he typed a reply. Then I'll build a new one. He put the phone down. Jungkook watched him carefully. Are you sure? Taehyung nodded. For the first time in my life, yes. Jungkook exhaled slowly. This is the part where it gets really hard. Taehyung smiled faintly. Good. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. Good. Yeah, Taehyung said, because if it was easy, I would have left again. That night, they didn't talk about marriage. They didn't talk about labels. They didn't talk about the future. They just sat on the floor with guitars between them, writing something new. Not a love song. Not a breakup song. Something in between. Something honest. The first real fallout came a week later. Not in the form of headlines. Not in trending hashtags. Not even from the company. It came in silence. The kind that feels heavier than noise. Taehyung noticed it first when his calendar stayed empty. No meetings, no schedules, no urgent calls, just a blank week stretching endlessly forward. At first, it felt like freedom. Then it started to feel like erasure. Jungkook was the one who finally said it out loud. They're freezing you out. Taehyung nodded. It's easier than firing me. Jungkook leaned against the studio wall, arms crossed. They're waiting for you to panic. Taehyung smiled faintly. I already did, it didn't help. Days passed. Then another week. Brands quietly pulled out. Invitations disappeared. Projects went on hold. Taehyung watched his name slowly vanish from spaces it used to dominate. Strangely, it didn't hurt the way he expected. What hurt was something smaller. Quieter. He missed being useful. Not famous. Not admired. Just needed. One night, after scrolling through old photos on his phone, Taehyung finally spoke the thought he'd been avoiding. What if I ruined everything for nothing? Jungkook looked at him. Nothing. For something that doesn't even know what it is, Taehyung whispered. For a future we haven't even defined. Jungkook didn't answer immediately. Then he said carefully, do you regret it? Taehyung closed his eyes. No, he said, but I'm scared I'll start to. That honesty hit harder than any accusation. Jungkook sat down beside him. You know what scares me? Taehyung waited. That one day you'll wake up and realize I wasn't worth burning your life for. Taehyung turned to him. That's not fair. Jungkook shrugged. It's real. Taehyung studied Jungkook's face, tired but sincere, and felt something shift inside him. You didn't ask me to do this, Taehyung said. I chose it. Jungkook's voice was low, and I didn't ask to be the reason. Taehyung shook his head. You're not the reason, you're the truth. Jungkook looked at him. That's even heavier. Silence settled again. Not the comfortable kind. The honest kind. That night, Taehyung had his first panic attack since the press conference. It wasn't dramatic. No crying. No screaming. Just a sudden inability to breathe. His chest felt too tight. His hands shook. His thoughts spiraled into a single terrifying loop. You threw it all away. You threw it all away. Jungkook found him sitting on the bathroom floor, knees pulled to his chest, staring at nothing. Hey, Jungkook said softly, talk to me. Taehyung tried. No sound came out. Jungkook knelt in front of him. Look at me. Taehyung did. Jungkook placed his hands gently over Taehyung's shaking ones. Breathe with me, he whispered. Slowly. In. Out. Taehyung followed. The panic didn't disappear instantly, but it softened. Tears finally fell. Not from sadness. From exhaustion. I don't know who I am without them, Taehyung whispered. Jungkook's voice cracked. Then we figure it out together. Taehyung looked at him. What if I don't like who I become? Jungkook smiled sadly. What if you finally do? They stayed there for a long time, sitting on cold tiles, holding each other's hands for the first time since everything began. Not romantic, not dramatic, just human. A month passed. Then two. The world slowly moved on. New scandals replaced their story, new idols trended, new rumors took over. Taehyung's name stopped appearing everywhere. Except in one place. A small, independent music platform. A song uploaded anonymously. No face. No promotion. No explanation. Just a title. Not too late. It spread quietly. Not viral. But steady. Listeners felt something in it they couldn't explain. A rawness. An honesty. A voice that sounded like someone starting over. Jungkook listened to it in the studio, eyes closed. Taehyung watched him nervously. You didn't even put your name on it, Jungkook said. Taehyung shrugged. I wanted to see if it could exist without me. Jungkook opened his eyes, and Taehyung smiled softly. It can. Jungkook nodded. So can you. That night they walked outside together for the first time without disguises. No caps, no masks. Just two people under streetlights. No one noticed. And that felt strangely powerful. Taehyung stopped walking suddenly. Jungkook turned. What? Taehyung took a breath. Do you still think I was too late? Jungkook smiled gently. I think you arrived when you finally meant it. Taehyung laughed quietly. So on time. Jungkook nodded. Exactly on time. They stood there, the city moving around them, no longer at the center of anything. And for the first time since the world had started watching them, they realized something unexpected. They weren't losing everything. They were choosing something smaller, quieter, but real.